and welcome to the Rappers and Rabbis special live stream event presenting the Hanukkah Heroine and Prophetic Voices book release from our esteemed guest for tonight, Rabbi. We're going to go around in a few minutes and have everybody introduce themselves. But for now, we're going to kick it off with a video of ours from Rappers and Rabbis called New Land, featuring Rabbi Avi Strasberg. New Land is a song that we kind of cooked up in the beginning of quarantine as we were entering a new land. But the song is yet still apropos as we are ending the year, the American calendar year, and going into the new year. And we want to wish everybody blessings for a sweet and productive and positive, happy and healthy new year. And the new year is, metaphorically speaking, the new land that we're all getting into. So without further ado, I'm going to kick it off with Rappers and Rabbis song and video, New Land. Shalom, y'all. Thanks for tuning into the Beat Midrash featuring Rabbi Avi Strasberg.
You might think that Noach would be dying to get off the ark, right? They've been in quarantine how many months now? 6 months, 8 months, 10 months.
If you're going to find new land, bring a pocket full of sand, for you're quite sure to miss shore. And when you think about it all, our lives are very small. Still I hope I never die.
I hope I never die, but I live on through my artistry. Through all of the debauchery, hypocrisy, and poverty, I pour out for my sons. As my eyes get watery enough to flood the earth, I just tell them build the ark for me, carpentry. These cubits not from arteries, but I built them from the heart. You see, if ever you get lost at sea, just send a dove out for an olive tree and pray that we are all in peace. R.I.P. to quarantine.
If you're going to find new land, bring a pocket full of sand, for you're quite sure to miss shore.
There's a flood coming, it's best we stay afloat. Unite every animal, have them elope. In the age of extinction, we're the last of the Mohicans. Grab your partner, say we will survive, let it sink in. On a voyage, far from a cruise. Put my life on the line with everyone's to lose. It is what it was, time to search for new land as we approach a new normal and devise a new plan.
When you think about it all, our lives are very small. Still I hope I never die. I want to live forever, my every breath is treasured. Gold bars that glow in the dark, I flow hard as Noah's Ark. What I mean is even Phoenix feels free at last when he's ash. Nevermore and nothing lasts. And the raven at your door also raps, colder than his black shoulder blade, and he's also strapped. Click, clack, flap, flap. If you're going to find new land, bring a pocket full of sand, for you're quite sure to miss shore. When you think about it all, our lives are very small. Still I hope I never die.
He sends the raven out, she doesn't come back. He sends the dove out. The dove comes into him at eventide, and lo, in her mouth, an olive leaf freshly plucked. So Noach knew that the waters were abated from the earth. The fact that the dove was able to find a plant. What do you imagine that feeling is as they're thinking about, as they're about to leave the ark?
I'll tell you, I've heard that song so many times, and it still kind of gives me the little goosebumps. It's just a special tune about the state of the world. And I really firmly believe if we all keep our feet planted on the ground and stay positive, stay prayed up, that the blessings are going to come down. And we want to wish everybody off top a happy new year. Hopefully that song kind of gives everybody a little bit of a better idea of who we are and what we do. We are rappers and rabbis. We are a crew of educational and thought leaders in the Jewish and educational space that merges hip-hop and Judaism together in new and interesting ways, mainly through music. Wouldn't be possible without the support of Jewish Federation of Greater Metro West New Jersey, and also big shout out to Upstart Labs. It's been a big 2022 for us, kind of getting back into the new land of doing events live and in person, but we want to still honor this new tradition of live streaming that's become a big part of our brand and who we are in this journey of merging together hip hop and Judaism. And I don't want to say any more without going through and have everybody introduce themselves. I want to start with Mr. Bible Raps himself. He is co-founder of Rappers and Rabbis and also director of our nonprofit organization. Big shout out. Let's all give a little round of applause to Mr. Bible Raps himself, Matt Barr.
Thanks, Crates. That's right. Been teaching Judaism through hip hop, teaching hip hop through Judaism for about a decade and a half. And I went to a Jewish song writing retreat and got to see Rabbi Barbara there, and was really enjoyed her Torah. And I really love taking contemporary things. By contemporary, I mean the past 200-300 years, and juxtaposing them with ancient Torah and seeing what fruits come of that. When you do that, is kind of one of my most enjoyable intellectual pursuits. And so the book that Rabbi Barbara has coming out that's what she does, and does it really well. So I talked to Crates about bringing her in, and it's a real honor and privilege to have you here. And we're excited to be reading this book, and I'm really excited for tonight. So thanks everybody for being here.
And that was a great introduction for Rabbi Barbara. So let's just pass it off and have you gracefully introduce yourself.
So I'm Barbara Simons. I'm the rabbi here in Monroeville, Pennsylvania, outside of Pittsburgh at Temple David. I am thrilled. I got to see some of Matt's talent in person up in north of Boston over the summer, like you said. And it's just a great way, a means to bring forward contemporary voices, like you said, for people who wouldn't necessarily either be hearing them, or people who are hearing them but can't really hear them. So I'm so pleased to be here. So thank you.
All right, so let's go down to Mr. E right below me. He is our New Jersey Regional Director of Rappers and Rabbis and our liaison to Moishe House. And he is a graduate of Retreatology and has also hosted 2 in-person retreats for Rappers and Rabbis, as well as done so much more for our organization. So round of applause, Mr. E. Thank you for being here. Maybe you want to kind of tell us a little bit more about yourself real quick.
Yes, thank you, Crates. As Digital Crates had mentioned, I'm the New Jersey Regional Director for Rappers and Rabbis. I also have been working with Moishe House in bringing the retreats together. We've done 2 this past year, and I'm looking to do another 2 in the coming years. I do a monthly open mic, music, poetry, comedy, open mic to the communities, which is located in Newark, New Jersey. And again, we do that monthly. So if you're in the tri-state area and you're looking to become a part of a growing community, you could reach out to me with that. We recently also partnered with the organization called Rekindle, which works to strengthen the dialogue between Blacks and Jews. And that's kind of a common theme which we've already been growing, which exists there in that Newark show as well too. It's a very diverse crowd, and we have very powerful conversations through the arts. Aside from my affiliation and work with Rappers and Rabbis, I'm also a U.S. hip hop cultural ambassador, alumni of Team Poland, which means this past year I represented as a cultural ambassador on behalf of the U.S., and I toured throughout Poland, teaching through cultural diplomacy through hip hop. I'm a performing artist and a teaching artist of the art form of hip hop, as well as spoken word poetry. So I'm a practicing spoken word poet and a performing artist. And by day, I'm a middle school English language arts teacher in Plainfield, New Jersey. Again, I teach with organizations like NJPAC, New Jersey Performing Arts Center, Lake House Recording Studios. And, I'm very passionate about the arts and hip hop. And, I try to bring it to my students and wider community out there in the world. So I'm grateful to be here with the whole team, Rappers and Rabbis. Nice to meet you, Rabbi Barbara. And I'm looking forward to this program. And I'll do the honors, and I will pass it off to the other rabbi / rapping Rebbe here, Revere.
Hey, good to be here. My name is Revere. I've been rapping, integrating the ideas of Judaism into creating Parsha Torah, where I've created a different Var Torah and then accompanied it with rap. And I've been just enjoying engaging in both passions that I lived through teaching Torah to communities, to children around the world, and integrating hip hop and art as a means of getting that message to them.
Again, for anybody that's interested in becoming a member of our fellowship, it's really a family, and we've gone through 2 iterations of our fellowship. We're starting to plan for the 3rd fellowship. Revere is, I'd like to say, the shining star of our most recent fellowship, who kind of quickly showed the hustle and initiative and grit that really I've now dubbed him the future of rappers and rabbis.
Yeah.
He's humble, but he's incredibly well studied and very talented vocally. And we actually have a project out right now on Bandcamp. If you want to support Revere's music, search for him on Bandcamp. And we're going to have a lot of new music coming in 2023. But for now, I want to get into the central prayer of our service, which is the Shema. And I don't know, really quick, if you want to maybe introduce the song and just very briefly maybe talk about the creation process of this song and video.
Yeah. What I like about this one is, we are all one. The idea of the Shema being, the Lord is one. And then by proclaiming that as one, we can all kind of share in that oneness. And the other person who's rapping on this is Ali, who's not Jewish, but all of the people on our team are not Jewish. We're all educators or into hip hop. But I think he has the best verse about what it means to be one. And so it's just one of those moments where we were sitting up and it's just like about being one. And then we cooked up. And I think it turned out really well that the primary central prayer for Judaism, I think someone who's not Jewish got a lot out of it and was inspired by it and was able to actually use it as a jump off for some remarkable hip hop bars, which you'll see here in a little bit.
All right, so here we go with our video of the remix of the Shema.
One time for your mind, one time for your mind. One guy from the squad, one guy from the squad, one guy from the squad. One time for your mind, one time for your mind. One guy from the squad, one guy from the squad, one guy from the squad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Adonai Echad.
Breathing what is Holy Spirit like? 1 foot, 1 love, and 1 mic. 1 race, 1 God, and 1 light. 2 hands, 1 left and 1 right. The many and the all involved in 1 fight. When divisions the plight is solved and we unite. Cause 1 ain't free if all ain't free. And you are not you if I am not me. Contemplate, elevate with the Elohim. Rappers and rabbis, 1 hell of a team. Building with the Musar, expressing a few bars. Traveling so far to the sound of the shofar.
1 of a kind hanging from the 1 vine. Wild grapes in the shade sometime become fine wine with a little sunshine. It's an hour past noon, can I get a 1 time? 1 time for your mind, 1 time for your mind. 1 guy from the squad, 1 guy from the squad, 1 guy from the squad. 1 time for your mind, 1 time for your mind. 1 guy from the squad, 1 guy from the squad, 1 guy from the squad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Adonai Echad. Not trying to be a prophet, but he who parted the sea is a part of me. When I look in my heart, I see the same history and mystery. I'm G-D'd up, I'ma read up with my feet up. Sabbath is just practice so we all get freed up. Please plant your seeds up, Israel's the bride and the groom's inside. One of a kind hanging from the one vine. Wild grapes in the shade sometime become fine wine with a little sunshine. It's an hour past noon, can I get a one time? One time for your mind, one time for your mind. One God from a squad, one God from a squad, one God from a squad. One time for your mind, one time for your mind. One God from a squad, one God from a squad, one God from a squad. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Adonai Echad.
And there we go. That is our remixed prayer right there, the Shema. I mean, we performed that song last Saturday night in Holy Cleveland, Ohio, in front of about 300 amazingly beautiful Jewish people. And I'll tell you, it was such a spiritual moment when the song finished. We all covered our eyes and recited the prayer together. And it was definitely, outside of shul, was one of the most spiritual moments probably of my entire life. And it was just such a blessing to bring this positive message of the marriage of Judaism and hip hop to a place like Cleveland, but also equally as blessed to receive the love from the audience, to know that what we're doing with alternative tefillah is such a powerful thing to bring the community together. But enough about us. Let's get back to this book and presentation from the amazing Rabbi Barbara, who's joining us tonight. I'm really excited. I think what you've been up to with this book that you have is really something really, really special. And I'm just so excited to get into it and be tuned into your presentation. So I'm going to give you the floor, and you can just give me direction on when to load up the PowerPoint and how to get through it. But thank you again so much for being here. Thank you.
Thank you for this opportunity. I am thrilled, and let's just get to it. So let's do the PowerPoint. First slide, straight into second slide. Okay. So here's the big question. Second slide is, when you eat latkes, is your preference applesauce or sour cream? So
both and ketchup.
Yeah, and ketchup. There you go. All three at the same time. All right. Who is a sour cream? Whether you're in a chat or sending a message, or whether you're online, raise your hand if you're more a sour cream person.
Sour cream.
Applesauce.
Sour cream.
Ketchup or other condiments.
Ketchup and sour cream.
That's nasty.
All right. So if you go to the next slide, this whole thing about dairy, in part, not necessarily just sour cream, but it's more than that, right? So if you look at these things, you might say, this doesn't look like a Hanukkah food to me. But if you look at it, right, this is Judith's cheese pastry. She's the one we're going to be talking about. From a Treasury of Jewish Holiday Baking by Marcy Goldman, are filled with cream cheese and farmer cheese, flavored with lemon zest and vanilla. So what kind of Hanukkah food is this, right? I mean, I just passed out lots and lots of donuts and donut holes to kids and seniors and all kinds of people, right? What's going on here? So let's go to the next slide of a bizarre kind of source, right? A sacred source is going to be the cookbook. So as we see this, a Hanukkah culinary custom is the partaking of cheese and all sorts of dairy dishes in honor of the brave Jewish heroine, Judith. Nobody knows who Judith is, right? Who is Judith? Judith's valor is said to inspire Judah and the Maccabees and his followers, Judith Maccabee and his followers. And the question is, wait, what? So one of the things that's really interesting is the idea that Judith gets to have more of, let's say, a presence at Hanukkah through the culinary arts, right? Through cooking. She's in an apocryphal book, a book that didn't make it into the Hebrew canon, right? It is in the Catholic Old Testament, the Book of Judith, but it's not part of ours. And at the same time, right, the women who traditionally were in the kitchen are the ones who keep her alive, her tradition alive. So in a way, she empowers them through what we're going to see as her courage, and they in turn keep her alive. So it's interesting, right? Usually when women are sort of have been relegated to lesser, they're the ones who keep her going. So let's look at the story. It's the next slide, if you would, please. And here's the story. So in the 6th century BCE, though there's lots of questions about when this actually was, a widow named Judith living in Judea won the trust of the Assyrian general Holofernes, who was sent to conquer Judea. First, she seduced him. Then she fed him so much salty cheese that he drank lots and lots of wine. When he passed out drunk, she beheaded him with his own sword and presented his head to the general. When the Assyrian army saw that, they fled. So we have this story, and anyone who can, wants to jump in, please do. But we have this story where usually a woman who is a widow, especially in biblical times, but probably even nowadays often, is basically invisible, right? She's powerless. She doesn't. So the Jews are not winning this war. They're having a very difficult time, and so she asked permission to go forward, and she sort of gets it through, a lot of sort of pleading, the way the story is told. But she's allowed to go in and try this. So it's really fascinating that this is what happened. So if we go to the next slide, here it is in a different arts form. There are many pictures of her, but this is one, right? See how Judith here is holding his
Oh my God.
right? And there are tremendous numbers of different forms of this. And so one of the forms that we're going to see another one actually onto Judaica, onto ritual items. So let's just look at the connection to Hanukkah. So at the next slide, please. I tried to make it, all right, well, I thought I tried to make it a little colorful, but I guess I didn't. Okay, so this story happened around the same time as the Hanukkah story, the 2nd century BC. I just said it was the 6th century, but there's all this debates about when this really happened. It could be that Judith and Judah Maccabee were related. It could be that it happened centuries earlier, as I just said, than the Hanukkah story, but shares the same theme, right? One person is courageous and takes unusual steps and is successful, right? Well, by Talmudic times, Judah's story, which became, again, as I said, part of the Catholic Old Testament, was associated with Hanukkah. And by the way, the first latkes were actually made of cheese long before they were potatoes. So one of the older forms of Jewish Hanukkah food were sort of almost cheese patties, if you'll call it. That's not a great way to put it, but something like that. Okay, so the connection is unclear, but it's there. And one of the main sources for it is the cookbook. It's mentioned in the Talmud, but it is really the cookbook that comes out so much more. So if we look at the next slide, you're going to see, right, here's a Chanukiah, a menorah for Hanukkah. So here's Judith's sword and head and all, if you look closely at it. And this is in the 19th century in Italy. So we have the actual depiction of this story. I don't know, my Hanukkahot are a little bit more pleasant and less violent, but there it is, right? It's a very violent story. We understand this, but she's empowered, right? She takes things quite literally in her own hands by the end of the story. What do we do with this? So let me just talk about the book for a second. So the idea is to bring forward Haftarah, which are the prophetic writings that are connected to the Torah portion and sometimes the time of year. Sometimes we look at them thinking, what? I didn't even understand what that connection was. Sometimes we might say it's a great connection, and what? What do we do with them, right? And sometimes it's a great connection, and there's a go do something, right? So in this book, for all of the Torah portions and all of the Jewish holidays, there are two interpretations of the traditional Haftarah with calls to action. They're brief, they're contemporary, they show the diversity of Judaism by both by their authors, and it's great, but I don't think it's enough. So one of the other parts is to have alternatives, and that's where this one comes in. So in a second, we're going to look at an alternative Haftarah. It's actually not the book of Judah, but it references the book of Judah. And by the way, in the book, other than really fabulous essays and alternative blessings, if people want to use them, we have 42, I guess we'll call them holidays, on the Jewish American calendar. So whether that is during Pride Month, whether that is July 4th, whether that's Tu B'Shvat, which normally wouldn't have a Haftarah, right? Whether that's Breast Cancer Awareness Shabbat, voting, Election Day, or Labor Day, or whatever. Anyway, so I won't list all 42. So here is an example, and I believe that actually the person who brought it forward, so if you go to the next slide, please, Cantor Abby Lyons is supposed to be on, so I'm thrilled, and thank you, because this was such a offering. Here is the alternative text for Hanukkah, okay? So it's from Some Notes on Jewish Lesbian Identity by Melanie K. Kantrowitz, as you can see, and it says, oh, yay, Abby just said that she's on, yay, thank you for this, it's so fabulous. Okay, so as Jewish women, we need to look at our people with our own eyes. To see Judith, who saved the Jewish people, she flirted with the attacking general, drank him under the table. Then she and her maid, whose name is not in the story, whacked off his head, stuck it in a picnic basket, and escaped back to the Jewish camp. Judith set her maid free, and all the women danced in her honor. That's a Jewish princess. Or, and forgive me, because I'm sure I should have learned how to pronounce these names earlier, or Anzia Yazierka, who told in Yiddish like English stories of Jewish immigrants, especially women's struggles for love, freedom, and education. Of her work, she wrote, "It's not me, it's their cries, my own people crying in me." Hannah Bryna Schmandrek, "They will not be stilled in me till all America stops to listen." That's a nice Jewish girl. Or Violet K., who recently, when I asked, ashamed, to borrow money for an airline ticket back east, and she said, of course, and then told me they're retiring. And I said, this isn't a good time for any of us. And she said, listen, if I have it, and I do, it's yours. That's a Jewish mother, mine. That's the text, right? So the connection we see to Hanukkah already is it starts with Judah. And so what is a Jewish woman? Princess, nice girl, Jewish mother. But look at, and Abby, I'm sorry, we can't hear your voice, but look at how Abby interpreted it. So if you would go the next slide, please. The story, it's titled Her Story as Truth Tellers, Advocates, and Resistance Fighters. The story of Judith, a young widow, assassinating a Holofernes, the enemy general, has long been associated with Hanukkah, yet was overshadowed by the stories of the Maccabees. While the violence in this story may feel uncomfortable, clearly Judith is just as fierce a freedom fighter as the much more well-known Maccabean men. The Torah reminds us over and over again of the economic vulnerability of widows, yet here Judith shows the opposite of vulnerability. In Some Notes on Jewish Lesbian Identity, Melanie K. Kantrowitz celebrates Judith among many Jewish women, overturning modern stereotypes of Jewish princesses, nice Jewish girls, and Jewish mothers. She reveals her story as eloquent, passionate, practical, graceful, loving, and fierce truth tellers, advocates, and resistance fighters, countering the dysfunctional shame and blame we may have internalized. On Hanukkah, we celebrate Judah's courage and decisiveness while shifting our focus away from militarism. We listen to the voices of Yazierka's characters growing clearer as the light of the candles grows brighter each night. We seek to live our values even when that's a challenge, just like Violet K. So here is an invitation, right, to bring light forward beyond obviously only the physical lights of Hanukkah. But what a fabulous connection that Abby made. So thank you. In terms of, so what can we do with Judith? What are the messages of the Judith story? And then Abby brings it forward beyond that. And how should we be acting now, right? What's the message to us? So in the book, sometimes it says straight out, do this thing, right? Whether it is social justice or self-care or spirituality, those are our categories, as it were. Sometimes these end with a question of, inviting us in. And sometimes it's like this, right? We are seeking to live our values even when that's a challenge. It's right there for us. That's what we do. That's what we bring forward, right? So with this, the hope is that you all are inspired to go forward. And I'm so glad that Rachel's on too, because we need a woman's voice here too. And the idea is to bring forward women's voices, not only through the texts, but also through rapping, right? So whether all of you, right, today are going to do this, and I'm so excited to see what you come up with, but also that for people who are live streaming, not only live streaming, but coming back on Facebook and YouTube and all the other platforms, that will maybe say, hey, wait, I can bring this forward through rap, through the various artistic forms. So I did try to help you a little bit. I did make a slide here. If we could do this, we'll use this as our last slide. But I tried to bring forward some themes for you in a little bit of a wordle that come forward, right? And to me, one of the things that's important is to recognize that the strength of the Judith story was brought out through the kitchen, through the cookbook. And right. And that's not where we usually think of sacred text and heroes, right? We think of, often male chefs are the ones who are so famous or have been. And now women, of course, are growing in that. But that it's just a really interesting way to think about that. I mean, Judith, seduces, right, this general, and she goes into a tent that's usually a woman's place. But she does it as again, very violent, but a very, heroic way that she figures out what her steps are going to be. And it's all about eating all of that salty cheese and drinking an awful lot of wine. So there is what I have for you. And I can't wait to hear what you come up with.
It's one thing that definitely has caught my attention about this presentation is actually how revered the cookbook is in modern Jewish households. I think we all have a sisterhood cookbook from our bubbies or our aunts. Look, everybody's shaking their head.
Yeah.
And, it's just unbelievable that the strength of some of these recipes as they're tied to tradition in the Torah
and if
has
I can
made it through these generations is incredible.
And if I can say that, I mean, my ears were perked up the whole time when things about Judith were coming through, and I was preparing for this. But that when you look at a cookbook that doesn't just have recipes, but has a little story about the holiday or about the whatever,
Right.
you're really getting. I mean, the whole dairy thing is from Judith, so it's really getting that story. Even though this story is so unclear in a lot of ways, right? It's hard to get the text because it's a long story. It's really unclear what the connection, and as yet, the connection was made a little bit in the Talmud, but the women took it forward, and they're the ones who are keeping it going. So otherwise, we might be eating dairy, we might not, but we wouldn't know what the connection is.
Yeah, and we even call Israel the land of what? Milk and honey, so sweet and dairy. It all goes together. Incredible. So maybe really quick to wrap up the presentation, if it's okay, I can go to this last slide and you can kind of talk about a little bit more about your book.
Sure, absolutely. So the idea of the book is that we have prophets that I think we don't really know enough about, and we have prophet-like voices that we really could be listening to. So in this book, for the alternatives, there are Ruth Bader Ginsburg, There are modern Israeli poets like Yehuda Amichai and of course, lots of female poets also. There is Maimonides, there is Hillel and Shammai, there are Talmudic stories, there's very traditional texts like Job or Proverbs or Psalms who are part of Ketuvim writings, but they're not part of what our rituals are. So we don't come across them in any kind of regular way. I recognize, right, to be Haftarah, you have to be kind of sitting in worship probably and on a Shabbat morning or a festival and hearing what the Haftarah is. But at the same time, the idea of this book is let's take it beyond, right? So if you're at an interfaith gathering, right, if you're at a march of some kind, if you're doing just study of the Jewish canon of literature, there are over 170 contributors that are representing the entirety of the diversity of Judaism, as well as what texts they chose. So again, we don't come across Job. Some of us talk about it a lot, but we don't really study it necessarily. So there are just so many texts that I had never heard before, just fabulous poetry. And some of the contributors themselves translated it from Hebrew and so forth. But it's just a great way in. So I'll just end this way because I want to hear from you all. But I know you need some time here. So it's a fabulous way to be able to bring this forward where it doesn't just sort of be Haftarah, meaning the concluding portion, right? That it's just the one that comes after, because that's what it means. Haftarah means concluding portion, but I like to mistranslate it purposefully as punctuation, that it punctuates the Torah portion or the holiday. And so one other piece I'll just say quickly is, for example, we have different cycles than the usual Haftarot. So one of them is from Thanksgiving to Hanukkah. Two rabbis created a cycle of 4 Haftarot that you could read one week after the other that builds from these freedoms we have and these fights for freedom that we have using text. So it's really very creative on their part, but it's just really a really great resource, even just to pick up and look at. And then there are alternative blessings also, since these are not traditional voices that we usually hear in the Haftarah. But let's hear from you all.
Okay, well, in the chat, if you look, there's a link to a 20% discount code. I'll post it again throughout the rest of this, presentation. But really, let's all give a round of applause to Rabbi Barbara. That was really amazing. And also, just a real quick introduction to one of the newest members of our fellowship, Rachel Hamer. Rachel, welcome to the chat. I don't know if really quickly if you have anything else that you want to add in terms of, either prophetic voices or the story of Judith.
Are you asking Rachel?
Yeah.
Oh, you're asking me? Oh my.
Yeah, if you had anything you wanted to add to the conversation, since you're the newest member to join in.
Oh, thank you, and forgive my lateness. I was at a Hanukkah party, so I just had to come as soon as that was finished. Had to celebrate. I think it's so important to raise this. I personally, Rachel is my first name, Miriam is my second name, and of course Miriam is one of the prophetesses that I always learned about. In fact, I know several songs about Miriam referring to her as the prophetess. So I always saw myself in that. And as we know, representation is so important. And so I'm very pleased to be able to take part in this conversation and others that bring a broader representation so that all people hopefully can see themselves in our stories in the Torah and in our various texts. So thanks to you for having me as part of the conversation.
Yeah, Rachel, thank you so much. Incredible musician and vocalist. We're so blessed to have you in our fellowship, and looking forward to many more live streams and in-person, get-togethers with you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. All right, so it is Hanukkah. Like you said, we're all celebrating Hanukkah right now. I believe it's the fifth night, right? Yeah, fifth night. Fifth night. Okay, good. Sorry, we were all traveling this week, so yes, fifth night of Hanukkah. It's really incredible. I can't say so much about the amazingness of Hanukkah as it's just like a celebration, not so much of the holiday of Hanukkah, but the tradition and wisdom behind the story of Hanukkah is such a testament to the strength and resilience of the Jewish people. And we have composed and produced a song that's like we do. We remix. We to kind of take a little bit of the old and make it new in the hip hop tradition. So we remixed and reproduced More Fire, and it's actually featuring Mr. E on incredible standout verse, and also featuring Revere, whom I believe we've lost to the internet somewhere he's lost somewhere in the cloud, but he's still with us in spirit. And Revere and Mr. E are featured on this amazing track. It's not finished yet. So even though this is a world premiere, it's not online, it's not streaming yet, but it will be very soon as we're going to tighten up and finish the production on it in the next 48 hours and try and get it out before Hanukkah's over. But here it is, the world premiere of Rappers and Rabbis.
Jews, above all, were their targets, and the more pious they felt themselves to be, the more they abused. You must bear in mind that the Jews were the only tribe from antiquity left in Europe. The Babylonians, the Egyptians, the Phoenicians, the Greeks, the Romans, the Gauls, and the Goths had all either perished or merged with other peoples. Only the Jews, whose state had been repeatedly destroyed, and who had endured all those terrible times when they had been persecuted and hounded from one country to the next, had survived.
Lighters in the air, more fire, more fire. Lighters in the air, more fire. Lighters in the air, more fire, more fire. Lighters in the air, more fire.
On every track and beat, I rap to speak to my predecessors up there looking back at me. Not talking apple trees or honey factories. Not Rosh Hashanah when I dip in on my Mac and bees. But my who couldn't take it, couldn't sit back. Would take it like military, bite the Big Mac. They won the war singing Al Hannes in black. Back to the present, rapping rabbis, we just gift raps.
Lighters in the air, more fire, more fire. Lighters in the air, more fire. Lighters in the air, more fire, more fire. Lighters in the air, more fire.
We some survivors. They tried to punish the pious. They had us in ovens and fryers. They strive to suppress. We double down to invest. Yeah, now we the suppliers. They plan us to perish. This life I'ma cherish. The light I inherit. The fire fermented. They gave us gas. Now it's unleaded. If I say that I mean it, I meant it. My tribe nomadic. And we came down from the attic. They thought they had us, but we got lighters and matches. First temple sad to see utter catastrophe. We was in agony. We grew gradually. Transformed the tragedy. Moved like the Maccabees. Now we give guilt. Tzedakah for charity, and we eat latkes, lot of the calories, like the menorah. We got the Torah, light it up, and then we all dance a hora. Dreidel is spinning until it tip over. Los Nostros Ultra, if it ain't lit, then we don't go. 8 crazy nights, we go loco.
Lighters in the air, more fire, more fire. Lighters in the air, more fire. Lighters in the air, more fire, more fire. Lighters in the air, more fire. Lighters in the air, more fire, more fire. Lighters in the air, more fire. Lighters in the air, more fire, more fire. Lighters in the air, more fire.
Hey, that's hot.
Yeah, we performed that this past weekend in Cleveland, and we had everybody turn the flashlights on their cell phone on, and it was really, again, another massive spiritual moment. It's a transformative experience when you take music from the studio to the stage, and it is kind of like the rabbi giving the sermon at the end of a service. It's really something special. So I'm really, really glad that we did that.
I've never gotten anyone with like their phone or with a lighter to do that at the end of my sermon. So I'm going to strive for that.
It was amazing. And Mr. E, shout out to Mr. E, was so inspired that we actually cut off the music and him and one of our other members just freestyled and just went so crazy and really received. I mean, people were already standing, but it was like a standing ovation. Just such an amazing moment. So I'm really excited to get that song on all platforms and available for everybody to hear. But really, that was the world premiere. Matt, I don't know if you want to jump in and just say anything about that song and maybe where the inspiration to put that together came from.
So I have a song that I use that hook for that I wrote, and then but then it's just a nice hook for Hanukkah, and so we put it down over a beat, and then whoever wanted to jump on it jumped on it, and so Mr. E and Revere ended up putting down their verses, and I think it's a better song now. We still gotta kind of work out a few things and extend the hook, but when we performed it live, you could see how it worked real well. Just it's something simple for everybody to do. Light is in the air, more hot fire, more fire. Put your cell phones up. It's just nice. It was really, when you're on stage, like you said, I relate to these songs very differently now that I've performed them for a large crowd, because now I see them like while that hook is going, there's like everybody in the crowd with a cell phone and their lighter on going like this, and it's just it was a remarkable experience to be on stage and to feel that kind of connection with.
I mean, the pictures and the video footage is so incredible. We're going to get to doing some post support and wrap up of the show this next week or two. We'll be posting more clips and videos, so look for that.
One other thing, Crates, if I might put my feminist cap on, Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who was mentioned earlier, talked about how when she was accepted to Columbia or Harvard first, then she transferred to Columbia, but she was one of 9 women in a class of 500 people. So if you accept which even she talked about is true, that men and women are equal in legal thought, right? Like even back then in the 50s, they had like people tried out for the Boston Symphony, and they had the people's try out in front of the people where they could see who's trying out, so you could tell if they're a man or a woman. And then like mostly men got in, but then if you could only listen, which is music, if you could only hear behind the scenes, you could only hear their music, it was 50-50. More women actually got in than men. And so if you're one of 9 women who got in barely, because they're not accepting women, she was like, we were the smartest people there. You know what I mean? Like, we were one of 9. We were exceptional amongst these other 490 people. And I think in Judaism, like if you just think about who Rappers and Rabbis really messes with, kind of organically, but like Rabbi Yaffa, Rabbi Strasberg, and Rabbi, what's your last name? How do you, Simons. I think there's something great and powerful in Judaism that we are allowing women over the past 50, 60 years to become rabbis, that there's this influx of great potency and power that the women rabbis are really adding to Jewish thought that is needed now, because Judaism is kind of like fallen off in terms of people being interested in it. But at the same time, I think women being allowed to be the high thinkers, it is what's going to kind of like kind of correct that and make it so Judaism does survive over the next couple hundred years.
Amen.
And I think that's, proven by kind of all the people that we just naturally like respond to in terms of like their Torah. And because I've never heard any of this about Judith, none at all. You know what I mean? I just heard about Maccabee and Antiochus and, Judah the Hammer and, but none of this, but.
Right. And I think part of what you're saying is, if we think about Maccabee, what it means, right? Because it's just a nickname. It means hammer, like you just said. But if you think about that idea, is this tiny little army, right, is kind of hammering away at this very well constructed, army that has the uniforms and the weapons and the training and all that kind of thing, right? So if you think about it in terms of women's places, but in terms of anyone who's been on the outside, right? They have to hammer away, right? You stand on the shoulders of those before you, but you do your part. That I think that's a really important theme.
Yeah, this has definitely been an eye-opening presentation tonight. I'm definitely blessed. I could just picture the Jews back in the day in the desert eating mozzarella sticks. That's like kind of like what I what I and also the other thing I laughed about is when you were talking about the 42 different holidays that you could pair with a Shabbat service. We always joke that Mr. Bible Raps here, Matt Barr, has a song for every single one of those occasions.
Great. It's
Which
fabulous.
is
No,
good.
at the retreat that Sue Horowitz put together and where Matt and I met, someone, Kira Goldman, came out with this song that we're now producing. I mean, it's very impressive, but the idea of getting prophetic voices out there are so many voices coming at us, right, from so many different areas. But the idea being that we can, hear voices that are guiding us, that are inspiring us, that are pushing us in good ways is really important. And so this, I hope, really will broaden it, but also will just be an invitation, right,
Yeah.
for anyone to come forward and say, here's a prophet-like voice, right? I mean, I'm not as much respect as I have for Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who we keep talking about. I don't consider her a prophet, but prophet-like. Absolutely, right? She inspires us, right? She pushes us to move forward.
Incredible. And, our history is filled with prophetic voices.
Absolutely.
And also, we talk about how in hip hop, there's a lot of prophetic voices. In the past 40 years that hip hop has been a global art form, there's been so many artists and entertainers who have had such important prophetic messages that cut through the noise and lasted through almost an entire generation. A whole lifespan has kind of gone past in the hip hop tradition. It's been 40 plus years. So it's pretty amazing that we get to celebrate these prophetic voices on both sides of the spectrum. At one of our most recent retreats, we talked about Heschel and Dr. King and how their messages also intertwined and how there were so many prophetic voices in the civil rights era that still ring absolutely true today in 2023,
Right.
as we're still dealing with some of these problems around the world and bringing the voice of justice to life.
And Rabbi Dr. Lance Sussman wrote a essay in the book that talks about this idea of prophetic Judaism. Actually wasn't so much about the prophets. It was about the rabbis in the civil rights era and how they called everyone to action, right, against all odds. So if we can either, I don't know if it's exactly reclaim, but if we can claim prophetic voices and do a little part to change our corner of the world, wouldn't that be something?
It's amazing. So yeah, we're gonna get into wrapping up this presentation, but I'm just getting some really sad news across my desk here. We want to say rest in peace to the late great Tom Bell from Philadelphia International Records, who produced and recorded classics with the Stylistics, the Delphonics, and many more. Also, rest in peace to the young, I believe he was 20 years old, to Big Scar from Memphis, an upcoming MC who passed away as well today. We're going to send love and light and condolences. If anybody else has anyone that they're holding in the light, whether it's in sickness or in death or even in health and good blessings, let's just take a quick moment of silence to internalize our love and light. Amen. All right, so I don't know if y'all want to get into some raps right now. This has been a lot of knowledge, a lot of gems, a lot of knowledge bombs were dropped in this presentation, but I'm ready to get into some raps. So
Yeah.
I know we just unfortunately looks like we just lost Revere again.
Yeah.
But you know what? We got Mr. E who can maybe kick it off. And if anybody wants to join in, we are running out of time. So I'm going to let this beat play. And, Rachel, we know Rachel, she sings, but she can rap. Don't get it twisted. Rachel got some bars, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I'm going to throw on a remix that we worked on while we were together in Cleveland. It's just an instrumental for y'all to rap on right now. I want to kind of just say that if anybody is in the chat, you can type your raps into the chat. I'll post them on the screen if anybody has any bars they want to display in written form. But looks like we have a pretty full squad right here, so let's get into it. Here is the prophetic rap portion of our event. rap flow.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, it's all hard. I've been here in this Walmart, cause I'm a stalwart and everybody here wanna call flirt. Like I'm that cop flirt and you wanna take it. We gonna move it and we moving like it's after David. Judith, she got that Halifax and I'ma spit that fire when it is ends furnace. You know it's furnace in every burnishing. I know that I be brandishing the words I'm managing to spit. Fire, it's going lighter. I'm going in to get it and you never gonna perspire. Right here, right now, right every day. And if you want it, you can never get that every way. And know what you're doing like I'm spitting on that dreidel. We got crates when he's spinning on the table. And everybody knows that we gon' get it fire. So if you wanna get it now, everyone here admires.
Let's do this. Have you heard about Judith? Heroine of Hanukkah. You take off your yarmulke. I don't mean Shama, but Judith she bring, and she brought the hammer. Salty cheese and good wine. Hanukkah's a good time. Come on, let's do this. Hanukkah and Judith. Good time with good wine. Let me pass it off to Mr. E. Go ahead and make that freestyle history. Mr. E is on mute.
We can't hear you, E.
Our best freestylist is on mute. That's all right.
Okay, I'm gonna go. Here we go. Here we go. Judas the protector, Judas the collector. You know it's in the time of Nebuchadnezzar, like the lamp, let it shine. Hanukkah's my favorite time. It's man and woman, we're freedom fighters, courageous, non-stop candle lighters. The light grows brighter as we speak. We advertise the miracle. We're at the peak. In the kitchen, the spatula's stronger than the sword. Salt Bay got nothing on my fingers with the sword. Cooking up some freedom, we drink bread, we sip wine. The prophet is Judith, a heroine for all time.
The spatula is stronger than the sword. Best line I've ever heard.
Amazing. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, there we go. And I play when I'm Johnny, I'm ready. Oh, Jado, we shall play. Jado, I made you out of clay. When I'm Johnny, I'm ready. We learned the story about Judith, how she the truest. She cut off the head, she brought the hammer. She held it in her hand like a Kool-Aid jammer. Now we got people on the internet with spammers. We learn about the woman and how they Jewish, how they hold it, how they truest. And we learn about the bravery. We learn about the exodus, escaping slavery. We learn about the strength and how we cook it in the kitchen. Rappers and rabbis, we make the people listen. Your eyes glisten as we hold the lighter with the light. More fire, the more fire like Hanukkah. We hop about the tent, pay your rent or pay your mortgage. Yeah, we just speak it like Judah. Man, we really some shakers and some movers. We hold the schemes and we kindle what we kindle. We came back from Cleveland. We give you something to believe in. We bring it with the courage. We ain't some cowardly dogs. And we don't eat porks. No, we don't eat hog. We hold it with the spatula. Go and cop a book. Yeah, rappers, rabbis, we know it's a good look. We hold it down, something like the Maccabees. Every time I just smack the beat, and then I shake its hand because I got respect. Shout out to Wu-Tang along with Inspector Deck. Hold the wine, we like to eat, we like to dine. Rapping rabbis, we got like number 9 plus 9. There's like 18 people in the crew. Times 1,000, we create the I meant to say multiply. We don't lie, we keep the truth. We spit it in the booth.
I could rap for 8 nights like a menorah. Put it down like the Torah. Spin it around just like the dreidel. Every time I bring it to the grave and to the cradle. Yes, shout out to our guest, Rabbi Barbara. These bars be coming like barbarians. We scaring them. We cut off the head like the Leviathan. We hold it just like Judas. Rappers and rabbis, we know that we the truest.
Let's go.
Let's get it, Devere. Let's get it.
We're gonna go back in.
Got to give Devere his moment.
Yeah, okay. And then we rock it slow, like it's Salvatore. And everybody look around, we saying Mazel Tov. And we can do it, cause right now is just a party. And we gon' make it on the Hanukkah, it's hardly anything that we do. Ain't wanna redo, cause we are with the Judah and the Maccabees, the Hebrews. I know I go in every time I flow in. I'm gonna be so potent like Judas when she with the Romans goes in. She get that Trojan horse, then it's chosen. The people know then that we be open to any decision. Cause if you wanna get it, those women, they in the kitchen. They cooking up a storm, they do it in the studio. If you wanna stew, bro, you can never shoot them. No, I know it's right now. We gon' get a fight town. I go and when I go and I give eyebrow humor. That is like the Jewish way. Every time I humor me, you humor me and do the say like Judas say. That she was in the with the building, no judgment. I'm feeling the everyone and children. Cause Judas, she was the greatest one. And if you wanna take it for the alien, no alien. That's a skyborg. If you think it's high, like I got it from that psych ward. No, Judas. He was the one we know. But everyone to say to get it on the rodeo. And I think that I could put this beat to bed. Cause just like Judas, this is all off the head.
All off the head. Hey.
Nice.
Amazing. Y'all did that.
That's cool.
Rachel, whoa. Well, big thanks, Hamer, Mr. E, Revere, Mr. Bobble Raps himself, Matt Barr. Thank you so much for your leadership and such an amazing year that we've had as a crew. I feel so thankful and so blessed. And then also just monster big ups to Rabbi Barbara for coming through tonight. Her book is available now. I'm going to put the slide back on the screen really quick. And I'm going to drop the link in the chat one more time. But go check Prophetic Voices book. Let's put a link to a 20% discount code in the chat. I really suggest everybody check it out and then kind of see what prophetic voices you might come up with. You know what I mean? And I think that if anyone is inspired by this live stream, please message us. Please, send us a message either to Rabbi Barbara or to us at Rappers and Rabbis, and let's continue this discussion of prophetic voices, hidden voices in history. It's really incredibly such a rich history that we have of survival and resilience, and there's so many tales that are probably even yet to be told that are still discoverable. So I'm so blessed to have gained this knowledge from tonight's meeting. And I don't know, Rabbi or Matt, if either of y'all have any last words, I'm just gonna shoot the floor over to y'all to kind of wrap it up.
I'm gonna pass it over to Rabbi to finish us up.
Wrap it up? Really?
Wrap it up. You don't have to drop bars. You could just drop Torah.
Well, I just thank you all. You brought this forward in just so many different ways, and it gives a new way for people to hear voices that can impact us, that can make us move forward, that can help us change the world and change ourselves. And whatever way we can help people to be able to do that with authenticity and creativity within our tradition, that's what this is about. So I am thrilled to be here. So thank you to Matt, who made the connection. Rachel, it's good to see you again. You were on the retreat as well. And just thank you all. So talented. Tell me when you're in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, right. incredible. Thank y'all so much. And of course, happy Hanukkah, happy holidays, happy English New Year. May everybody have a blessed and positive, happy, and healthy year in 2023. Amen.
Amen.
Man.
Amen.
All right. And that is it. Shalom, y'all. Peace.